continue with our lecture for today. So today we are going to discuss about biotechnology patents and startup. Okay, effect of patent on startup biotechnology companies. Basically, I think this is something that you can easily understand as a microbiology. Okay, you already know what is monoclonal antibody technology.
Yeah, don't mean. Can you explain? Dia orang faham ke startup tu apa?
Sorry. Okay, so this, do you know what is a startups?
No.
No, okay.
To start company?
Yes, but actually startups is a company that startup company is a company that is being started lah. It's a new company which is being established for, in this case, okay, basically to commercialize biotechnology product or biotechnology patents. Okay, we also have other types of companies like spin-off company. Okay, but in detail we can further discuss on that on later on. But for startup is a new company. Okay, in this topic, okay, startups is usually being developed by, let's say for example, they have a mother company, and then this mother company is mainly focusing on the R&D of biotechnology drugs. For example, maybe drugs that can reduce the headache lah contoh. Sekarang ni ramai orang sakit kepala kan. Okay. So this the company initially they just do study on the drugs to reduce headache. Okay, maybe lebih lama headache tu boleh hilang lebih lama daripada Panadol sebagai contoh. Okay. And then they have successfully do or did the clinical trial. Okay, and then they want to commercialize this drug. So when that happen, okay, they have to create a startup company. Okay, and then the startup company will do all of the necessary development or marketing, okay, trying to find funding, okay, and then sell the products, okay. So that is a startup company. So in UPM we have this startup company as well, okay, and actually the startup company in UPM is being developed to market UPM's patent and IP, okay, and they are being held in a group under the InnoHub office, which is under the Putra Science Park, which is UPM's Technology Licensing Office, TLO. Okay, we have discussed about TLO 2 weeks ago. Okay, so faham startup company? Okay. And then, okay, basically for biotechnology companies, okay, most of the time, okay, when the biotechnology companies is being set up, okay, they are trying to sell or commercialize biotechnology product that can be used to solve problems, or the company themselves can also make products. Okay, jadi products yang kat sebelah kanan dalam kotak-kotak ni, most of them are familiar to you as microbiologists, monoclonal antibody technology, cell culture technology, okay, biosensor, GMO, genetic modification, antisense protein engineering, and all of these technology, when they are being discovered, okay, they will start to create a new business. Okay, we have discussed about blue ocean, red ocean strategy, kan? So the moment technology ni dijumpai, okay, they will create a new chance or a new business which is not competing with other existing businesses. So they are venturing into the blue ocean strategy. And the latest technology that is already inside our system is CRISPR, CRISPR. That is the most amazing, not sequencing, they are actually manufacturing the genetic. Okay? The technology is so amazing. That is why they are able to sort the genetic code manually. So with the existence of this technology, okay, the development of or the expansion of biotechnology company becomes more and more, okay, and finally biotechnology becomes one of the biggest industrial player for investment later on, if you want to see how successful is biotechnology company, okay, you can try to open in Investopedia. Okay, so Investopedia ni dia macam dia provide information on a lot of biotechnology companies yang successful and how their shares is performing. Jadi you boleh tengok macam mana performance saham diorang, okay, and then they will help you whether you want to invest on them or not. Okay, tak apa, itu cerita lain yang kita tengok at the end of this slide. However, okay, if you are starting to think about if you start to consider about setting up a startup company, there are 4 issues that you have to consider. Okay, the first one is legislative. This is about perundangan lah. Okay, jadi in legislative issue there are also other components, but the most some of the most important one are being shown here. Firstly is price control. Jadi sebagai contoh, kebanyakan drugs in Malaysia, not only drugs, including every other thing, cars, housing, ayam even kan, they are being controlled. The price is being controlled because we do not want to see that people are being pushed into buying a medicine or drugs that is extremely expensive. Okay, ataupun pada masa yang sama, the companies themselves is generating profit that is extremely too high because the cost is too low and then the selling price is too high because they do not have any other competitor. Okay, jadi most of the time the price control is very crucial, and this is also including the support or incentive that is being provided by the government. So kadang-kadang, okay, bila the drugs themselves is very expensive and people could not afford it, okay, the government ataupun the related ministry will enforce a rule like they will give a subsidy on that drugs, for example. Okay, macam you pergi ke hospital, kan, most of the government hospital they have subsidized, they have subsidy on the treatment and medicines. Okay, jadi katalah kalau semua government hospital is providing a lot of subsidy for the patients, how is the private hospital is going to be sustainable, kan? Okay, but then at the same time, if government is giving a lot of incentive and subsidy to the hospital, okay, what is happening to the budget of the government? So benda macam ni sangat banyak interrelation dia, menyebabkan telah berlaku control on the price of these biotechnology products. That is about medicine. We are not talking yet about agriculture, which is the food products. Okay, we are not talking yet about the industry, which is most of the time also related to food and also produce which we are using daily. Okay, itu satu. Yang kedua is the changes in patents law. So sometimes, okay, when the development of biotechnology product is happening in the country, okay, they do not have the initial bylaw ataupun legal standing about this product initially. Okay, for example, maybe 20 years ago, okay, Malaysia do not have any law on patented GMO food, okay, in Malaysia, because we do not have GMO food in large scale at the moment. But then nowadays GMO is everywhere. Okay, so the government is starting to consider this. Okay, so they are going to put a certain law for genetically modified food, for example. Okay, and then sometimes they are going to also putting stringent laws on the for example, farming of fishes. Okay, last time we have in Pahang, they are farming sturgeon fish. So sturgeon fish is yes, it is good, it is nutritious, but then they are also predatory. Okay, they are carnivorous. They will conquer a certain area of river if they are accidentally escape from their pool. So unfortunately, some of the fishes have already been escaped. Okay, and then with that, they are already setting up a law on how to prevent this from happening ever again, because we do not want to have external species, okay, in our rivers and sea, okay, because this could actually destroy our natural flora and fauna. Okay, And then thirdly is about government financing and grants. Okay, so this is about the supports, okay, financial supports or loans, okay, like financing and so on. Because sometimes when we are trying to make sure that the people or the industry in a certain country develop, okay, the government themselves must try to assist the growth of this company. For example, in biotech, when a biotechnology company is going to start, most of the time they're going to have to use a lot of money. Okay, but then the size or the scale of the money that they require is too big, okay, and it is sometimes difficult for them to acquire them all by using their own money or by using grants. So the government is providing a loan scheme for this company to help them to grow. However, okay, like we have discussed last time, loan is not the most suitable option for a company as a startup, because if they fail, okay, they are going to be the bank ataupun the loan provider is going to chase after this startup companies lah, ataupun dia punya CEO ke whoever is in charge. Okay.
High chance of being bankrupt.
Yes, okay. Bankrupt pun satu pun juga. And then finally, other legislation that may result from ethical or political issues. So yang ni is highly related to, if you see nowadays, we can see a lot of issue related surrounding this thing. For example, for ethical, the most recent one is about the meat that or dairy produce, okay, that is being imported from outside of Malaysia. Okay, so that one right now we realize that we have some ethical issue there. Okay, now the government is trying to work on that matter and then try to solve it. And then it won't be a surprise if a new legal fine or legal stance will be put in place to make sure that this won't happen again. As well as political issue is also another thing. Okay, let's say this is related to COVID-19. Okay, we have a lot of bodies or authority that is questioning the vaccine themselves. I myself, if people ask me to have a jab of this COVID-19 vaccine, I will also doubt, because the study themselves is still too short. Okay, but then the political or the government, they can set a legal standard on how they, if they want to still acquire this vaccine, or maybe they still want to as of now they do not require anyone or everyone to have this vaccine injection. Okay, but then I don't know, maybe in the future, if this the result is already accomplished, or it is totally a success or it's totally a failure, then maybe they will come up with another things, okay, or another ways of solving this issue. So these are the registration that may result from ethical and political issue. That is one thing. So if you are a company that is trying to import COVID-19 vaccine, as of now, I would suggest you not to do that, because we have a lot of issue that is still not completed. Actually, it involves all of the price of the vaccine themselves, okay, patents law, okay, and then how much money you're going to acquire before you can purchase that vaccine, for example. And then I think ethical is not really related, but political and health issue is related to this component. So that is about legislative, just one. Okay. Then secondly is about the market. Okay. This is interesting, and because you can see this very apparent in this year alone. Okay, for example, fluctuation in biotech market, you can see that a company like Top Glove, for example, okay, they are producing glove and rubber products, okay, for medical and healthcare, for example, okay, and because of COVID-19 issue, okay, their sales is skyrocketing, okay, it's through the roof. Their shares is become so high, and so and then they hire a lot of people and so on. Okay, but that is just one side of the story. Try to take a look into another side of the company, for example, Johnson & Johnson, who is providing lotion, for example, because people are not going out, okay, and then the demand for lotions is dropping a lot, okay, so this is, you can see that one market is going too high, another market is going too low. That's one thing. This is not this is the direct cause and effect of the COVID-19 issue, okay, but then we have also the non-direct effect from this issue as well. For example, we have people who lost jobs during this situation. And then I have friends who are in business. Okay, for example, one of them is selling goat milk. Okay, powderized goat milk. Okay, and then this due to this COVID-19 issue, okay, a lot of his customer is starting to use other product which is cheaper. Okay, and then maybe they switch to the cow's milk. Okay, which is cheaper than goat's milk. So his sales is dropping. Okay, but at the same time, you can see that the sales of the cow's milk powder product, okay, is higher, is increasing because it is more, is cheaper as compared to goat milk. So those are the things that is happening in the biotech market. That is just one example. You can see a lot of other examples in this business. Okay. And then we also have public acceptance on biotech product. For example, GMO. Okay. I've recently purchased corn seeds, okay, corn seeds from Thailand. It is a GM corn, okay, sweet corn. It is called F1, but not related to Reska because the corn is still look like corn, but it is quite sweet. Okay, but then we have this issue on the public acceptance. Okay, but of course, before I purchase this product, I've already studied the background about the study and so on. So before I choose this, but I still, if I tell this to some of my friends, okay, or my family member, okay, this is actually a GM product, they won't be accepting if I want to give them this corn. Okay. So we still have this issue on the public acceptance on biotech product because some of the biotech product, they could cause harm, okay, in the long run that we still haven't understand yet. Okay, so this actually can affect the market themselves. Okay, if a product that can actually provide a higher yield of corn, okay, in the shorter time as compared but that one is GMO. As compared to a normal corn that will take a longer time, less tasty, okay, but it is not GMO. So how does the public is going to accept these two products, whether they will go on the non-GMO or GMO? Okay, but then we can easily understand that both of the products have their own pros and cons. Okay, both have direct effect on the profit themselves. Okay, that is the most important thing for businesses. Okay, and then because of just the public acceptance, they will also you will can also see that the effect afterwards. And for example, if let's say okay, we are exporting corn, okay, and then the number of corn that we are selling will also translate to our gross national income, as well as if we have investor from outside or buyer from outside, you will also see the effect on the, okay, and that is related to the market. Okay, now the drug approval process. Okay, this is when you are starting a startup. Okay, you can see that business, okay, or the patent that you acquire is actually at which stage. Okay, for example, if you acquire a patent at the after they finish the preclinical testing, which is in vivo and vitro, okay, maybe you can acquire the patent at a lower price. Okay, but then you have to do all of this trial after that, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, NDA, FDA, okay, phase 4 if necessary, as well as you have to really consider whether the product will have to be recalled or the registration afterwards. Okay, so as the startup, you could choose the patent at the earlier time, okay, like in clinical testing, because you can acquire it at a lower price. But then you have to face all of this. But you can also choose the drugs at the later stage, maybe after phase 3. because you think that after phase 3, it is easier for you to apply for the approval by FDA, Food Drug Association. Okay, but then you have to pay a much higher price because the patent has already undergone phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. Okay, so these are the things that a startup need to consider. How much money they are willing to pay for a patent, or are they willing to do these clinical trials? Okay, are they willing to face and fight for their drugs approval? Okay, are they ready to be able to have their products being recalled from the market? Okay, so these are very, very important things that need to be considered by startup companies. And okay, last but not least is ethical consideration. Although this has been discussed in the legislative component, but it also considered can be stand alone by themselves. Okay, ethical consideration put a lot of things into one place. Okay, for example, the first one is human genome. Okay, if if a startup company is trying to provide services or products that can actually alter human genome or human genetic to make sure that they are healthier through a long run, okay, not catching any sickness throughout their lifetime, okay, this could create the issue where we are creating a superhuman or super soldier, something like that. Okay? And this is actually against the ethics, okay, whereby we want the people to be to natural, okay, they are growing without the genetically modification. Okay, we have our children normally and so on. So those are one thing within the ethical consideration. Secondly, is about cloning. Okay, for plants, I think there is no issue with cloning. Okay, there's a lot of cloning like banana, okay, pineapple. For example, MD2 pineapple, which is extremely difficult to be obtained without cloning. Okay, if you are trying to grow it by themselves, it will produce different strain because from what I understand, MD2 is a combination of 5 genetic from the genetic from 5 pineapple. Okay. Previously, Prof. Ali already gave me 2 pineapple. Although I didn't eat fruits, okay, but my family like it very much. Thank you, Prof.
So you miss a lot.
Yeah, but I cannot blame myself for that. Okay. Anyway, thank you, Prof. Okay, but cloning issue is mostly important when it is related to human as well as animal. Okay, previously we know about Dolly and the clone sheep. Okay, but then it is not very successful because the sheep themselves develop a lot of diseases after a few years. Okay, and then it died at a young age. Okay, so it is saying that cloning could inherit some of the negative traits from its predecessor. But then let's say we are doing a cloning for human. Okay, so we have in the Human Genome Project, okay, we have already done the full sequence of human. Okay, but then and then with that, okay, let's say this cloning issue is very important, very, very dangerous because only countries or people who have the capacity of doing this will be able to do this, and countries that are not able to do this will not be able to do this, and then maybe they are going to lose a fight or war or whatever. Okay, it's like Star Wars, War of the Clones, so the taklah cerita pasal Star Wars lah. Nevertheless, you understand. I think you got the drift. So cloning is very dangerous, and it has a lot of issue in ethical as well as religion. I think there is no religion in the world is approving cloning because in any religion, okay, human is having spiritual component, which is ruh. So if you are putting a clone or you're producing a clone, okay, whose spirit is actually, whose ruh is inside that clone, because the original person already have the spirit, okay, ataupun roh dia, okay, but the clone is going to have whose spirit after that. Okay, so that is a religion component, and then we are not also able to reproduce human without the help of God. So that is a religion component. Okay? But ethical also have the same issue, human right and so on. Human, let's say in the future we have a lot of clone human. Okay? So who have the more right? Is it human or the clone human? So these are the things that need to be considered. And then about the GMO, we have also have already discussed about the GMO. Okay, and then finally, it's about food for energy. Okay, we have this issue on the food versus crops. Food for whether the crop is being used to produce food or whether it is being used to produce energy. This is true for a country that is producing a lot of energy crops, like Brazil and the United States. In Brazil themselves, they are producing bioethanol from sugarcane. Okay, so they have a big field to plant sugarcane, and then the sugarcane is being converted into bioethanol, and the bioethanol is being used to power up vehicles. Okay, and then they also did a lot of deforestation because they want to plant a lot of sugarcane. But at the same time, okay, there's a lot of people in Brazil who do not have enough food. Okay, they didn't even have access to food. So with a lot of food crops is being planted, but they are not producing food from these crops. Okay, we have this issue, this ethical issue that the food crop should be used to produce food instead of energy. Okay, because people cannot live without food. Okay, but maybe people can live with less energy. Okay, so those are the things that you need to find balance, which one to go. But of course, they have also different strategy for this. For example, they are planting energy crops, okay, which is crop that is not suitable for food because of the quality is low. Okay, they have low nutrition and so on. But this thing is here and we need to consider it before we start establishing a startup. So those are the 4 considerations as of now. Okay, Prof, ada nak tambah apa-apa tak? Before we move on to next topic.
Yeah, issue food for energy is a very big issue, a very big debate. Because in terms of need, because we say that what do we need to survive? In terms of need of the human being, food is a higher hierarchy compared to energy. Of course, we also need energy, but we need food more than we need energy, lah. And in the sense that when people when there are people who are starving or do not have enough food, why do we use our land to produce energy? Kan? So there's a big issue on that, lah. But in the world, actually, on the other side, actually there is enough food, alhamdulillah. Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala, for example, mentioned that rezeki itu ditentukan untuk semua orang, kan. Cuma isunya, the issue is it is not evenly distributed. In the rich countries, they have excess food, and even in Malaysia, in generally, we can see that we have excess food. But then there are, even in the rich countries, including Malaysia, we have people who do not have enough food. And later on, maybe I will touch on the SDGs. On the SDGs, the first one is to remove poverty and hunger, kan? Poverty, hunger, and health. Those are the important considerations in the United Nations SDG. So about, if I'm not mistaken, about 1 billion people, close to 1 billion, 700 million, 700 to 800 million people goes to sleep hungry every day. That is almost 10% of the world's population. So 1 in 10 people in the world goes to bed hungry every night. Sedangkan most of us assume that there's always food there, and we consume something, we waste a lot of food ourselves. So you can see it's because that the distribution, maybe they cannot afford it lah, satu. And those who are rich, they can afford, so they just consume more, and then they waste more also. And so then the point is we also need energy, of course. But energy, we have other means of getting energy. Kan, from fossil, from renewables, other renewables. I mean, of course, from crops also possible. But then this thing need to be seen as a bigger picture lah. Yeah, because companies want to make money, they just grow whatever crops that they can sell, kan? Whatever products that they can sell from Brazil, for example, they use this justification that they do not have enough oil. So rather than importing a lot of fossil oil, which will cost them a lot of money, they grow their own crops to produce energy, kan? But that is for Brazil lah. But if you see in the whole world needs food. See, so it's a very tricky issue, but you must understand this consideration, food versus fuel debate. Yeah. So you can even Google. There's so many people talking about this. So our agricultural land is actually reducing year by year because we use the land for development, building houses. For example, I'm from Kedah. In Kedah dulu, when I was small, there was a lot of paddy land. Now there's very little paddy land in Kedah. Especially the lands closer to the roads is all be converted to housing and factories and development, you know, kan? So, but the whole country needs rice, and we are only 70% sufficient in rice. We need to import 30% of our rice, mainly from Thailand and Cambodia. So in terms of that is also an issue, right? So for land, for example, in Japan, the best land is being used for agriculture. So even if they have a good paddy land for paddy, they will grow paddy. And then their own house, they will build close to the mountain or the hills. So they do not change the use of the land. This is called land use change. Land use change, you can also Google. There's a lot of information on this. So many of the environmentalists, especially in Europe, are fighting countries that are having this land use change, and especially from agriculture to something else. And it's happening a lot in Malaysia. So unfortunately, but of course, people who have land, they say these are my land. I can do whatever I want with the land, kan? But the country as a whole needs land for rice. You cannot grow rice in the mountain, kan? Generally lah, kan? So you can only grow rice in the flat areas. So those areas should be used for rice. But if you make a house or you make a factory there, then that land is lost, kan? So that's why we have to import 30% of our rice. So there are so many issues, but unfortunately, it is happening all over the world, including Malaysia. So you must be aware of these issues. As maybe in your generation, you can also create some change. You may involve in NGOs, or you might be involved in politics, kan? Jadi politician, so that you can change all these policies lah, kan? So that our country, and especially for your generation lah, kan? And our children's generation, there is still enough food for everybody. Allahu Alam. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you, Prof. Prof has just reminded me of something that I think I should share with the students. If you think that you might be not interested with politics, okay, and you do not want to be someone managing or handling the people from above, okay, because you think you are just good as you were, okay, please consider this, because this is also my thought last time. Okay, just a minute. Yeah. Dah balik. Ada apa lagi orang? Sorry for the advertisement. Okay. Consider this. If you are the person who you have experience, you have knowledge, and you have the good conscience, but you are not the one who is managing, okay? And then all of these good people is not going to be it's not going to become a manager of something, because we think that it is so difficult, it's so troublesome. If we all think like this, okay, we are going to be managed by people who we do not want to have that position. So right now, I think all of us should be considering to have a good conscience. Okay, first of all, okay, have a good insight, okay, and then try to manage, because if we don't do this, we will be managed by people who we do not want to manage us. Okay, so that one thing. Sorry for the iklan. Okay. I'm not saying anything about politik. I'm just saying that if takkan ada pula saya kata politik tak Saya just cakap okay, benda macam ni sangat penting. Okay. Right, in the future. Okay, so let's get back to this lecture. Okay, how do startup get started? Jadi there's a lot of ways of startup to be started lah. Sometimes you can see that a biotech company from a rural area, okay, they started to develop a very unique product. For example, I give you one very good example. From Japan, okay, this is Prof. Ali colleagues and Professor Shiraz colleague. They are producing charcoal from biomass. Okay, and then they start very slow, and then the process is being optimized through so many years by their own study, and suddenly they have been produced very good quality biochar. Okay, and then they become a very good or quite competitive company that is producing biochar in Japan. Okay, so that is one thing. Okay, the startup started on their own, but most of the time, okay, startup companies develop after they have a relationship with universities. Okay, the situation is as you can read, relationship between companies and university. For example, we have a lot of consultancy project or research contract project, okay, contract research project, okay, with between university and company. Okay, and then as a result of this study, okay, the company realized that there are further use of their biomass, or they can make additional profit by modifying this biomass into other value-added products. Okay, and so maybe they will be setting up a new startup company just to focus on this new business, which has been developed between this company as well as university. Also at the same time, sometimes okay, university can develop technologies or IP okay, in the university, and then the researcher or the lecturer that is developing this technology inside university, they are not willing to commercialize this technology because they are researcher, okay, they are not businessmen. So what happened next is they can license this technology to another company that is willing to commercialize this technology. Okay, so between the university, the researcher, as well as the company, they will have an agreement. Okay, how they are going to license this technology. Either they are going to purchase outright licensing, or they are going to have partial licensing and so on. Okay, between this the company, and then of course the researcher themselves will acquire some portion of the payment after the licensing. University will get their portion, and then the company that get the license. And then thirdly, students from that research use the technology to start up a company. Okay, you are now in your third year, kan? So next year you are going to have your FYP. Okay, sometimes some of the students will work on a project that will produce IP later on. Okay, and then with that, maybe your supervisor trust you to further carry this project to commercialization stage. Okay, and then you will be able to start your own company. So that is the third way, but of course the component must be patented and through a certain channel. Prof nak tambah silakan Prof.
Tak ada, go on.
Okay.
Go on.
But in this case, we usually encourage the students and the lecturer to go through PSP lah, Putra Science Parks, okay? Where the students will be guide to module for the commercialization of IPs, okay? And then they will be placed under Putra Science Park. They will have their own financial incentive or supports, okay? And the researcher at the same time will still be protected. Okay, the IP will be protected, as well as the students themselves will also be protected. Okay, and then finally, sometimes the students, after they finish the study, they form their own team. Okay, and then find a venture capitalist to invest and purchase licensing from the university. So let's say you are an FIP students. Okay, you realize that you are working on a very good or an IP that have a very good potential to be commercialized. Okay, but then your supervisor are not willing to allow you to start a company and then commercialize it with him or her being in that company. So you form a team, okay, and then you find a funder or venture capitalist to invest into your company so that your company can purchase the licensing of this product or IP from the university, and then you can commercialize it by yourself. Okay, so there is some of the situation where the company or the startup company can start. Okay, but this is just some of them. Okay, it can also came up from any other way. Okay, that is related to the development of research as well. However, okay, this is another thing. Why in research, okay, patents is very important. Patent and IP lah. Okay, basically, patent play a lot of role. Okay, into making sure that the company is well protected. Okay, and at the same time is sustainable throughout the challenge of time. So one of the important role of patents is firstly is biotech company is depend primarily on private investment. So when, for example, when you have venture capitalists, okay, investing into your company to purchase this patent, okay, or to purchase this technology, okay, how is the venture capitalist is going to be convinced that your patent is not going to be infringed, okay, or the technology is going to be copied by other competitor? Okay, because if it is being copied, okay, your competitor copy your technology because it has no patent, okay, your business might go down the drain, okay, because you will not have enough profit, okay, and then you cannot sustain your business in the long run. So what happened to the venture capitalist money? So they're not going to get back their money. Okay, so this is why patent is very important, because it secure your investment, okay, as well as you can secure the money that is being invested by your investor. Secondly, it is a good benchmark of the progress to the progress of the development of new company. Okay, most of the time, okay, if a product is being developed, okay, this is easy to be seen if you go out there and then you see advertisement on the billboard, okay, on the newspaper, on social media. You will see a lot of product that looks like it is a healthcare product or biotech product, but it is not patented. Okay, ni kadang-kadang orang cakap produk timbang kati lah. Okay, so without a patent, okay, in my opinion, okay, I will see that the company actually do not have a good product. Okay, it doesn't have a good development of product. For example, if their product is similar from year 1 until year 10, they have never patent their product, there could be something wrong. Okay, because if they are actually developing a product, okay, sooner or later they will see that their product is unique and have issues with competitor, because copy the technology, copy the formula and so on. So they have to patent to protect their product. But if they do not do any of this, okay, they are not protecting their technology, then maybe their technology is not new, or they have no actual benefit, okay, or maybe they are only just being basis on the apa dia panggil tu, testimoni saja. Okay, so that is going to cause the image of the company. Okay, and then thirdly is to monopoly profit. Okay, so when you have a patent, your competitor cannot compete, cannot copy your technology, cannot compete you directly. Okay, because they cannot use even almost similar technology with you. Okay, because in a patent, okay, you can file under patent, but they must have similarity index, which is very low. I think less than 20%, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so if it is similar, then they cannot sell the same product or use the same technology. Okay, if not, you can sue them. Okay, so you are going to get advantages if you are going to meet your competitor with if you have patents. Okay. And then fourthly is to secure funding from either venture capitalist or innovator. Okay, if you go outside there, okay, and then you are trying to find investor, and then you say, okay, look, I have a product, okay, but I need to sell this product. I need to have machines. Okay, this machine costs about 1 million ringgit, but I do not have 1 million ringgit. If you invest in my company 1 million ringgit, this is my ROI. Okay, after a certain year, you can get double of your money, for example. Okay, if you come with a patent, okay, your investor will be more convinced to invest in you. So whether it is a venture capitalist or innovators, okay. So this is very good in securing funding. And then fifth, okay, we have discussed about it, to convince venture capitalists, okay, and then to show the uniqueness of the product. So basically, if a product has a patent, definitely it is unique. If it is not unique, then it won't have a patent. Okay, so if it is unique, it can actually have a few other benefits. For example, it could work in different way as compared to their competitor. Okay, it could have more benefit as compared to their competitor. Okay, and so many other ways of showing that the product is unique. Okay, and then with this, it will show that you can sell your product better. Okay, the customer is much more convinced to purchase your product with a patent. Okay, so at the same time, you must also make sure that your patent can be protected. Okay, not just by one time, okay, because patent is protected for 20 years, but you must make sure that during the duration there is no one is um, infringing your patent. Okay, so the company themselves is responsible to make sure that the patent is not being infringed. They must check from time to time to make sure the companies is not doing the same thing, because if they didn't realize that the other company is infringing their patent and they do nothing, they are not legally bounded to be to explain to you. Okay, so you must first come to them and then tell them that they are actually infringing on you. Then maybe you can have a settlement offer. For example, maybe you can directly you can sue them. Okay, but indirectly maybe you can tell them, okay, you can proceed with your business. I'm not going to do anything, but you must pay a certain fees or royalties for each sale, because you are actually infringing on our technology. Okay, there's another interesting story that I've heard. Okay, when a patent is being infringed by another company. So let's say company A is having a patent, and then they realize that company B, which is a new startup, which has been just started to sell the product, but they infringe on the company's A patents. So what the company A do? Okay, they can go there right now and then stop the company from doing their business, sue them, or they can also wait for quite sometimes after the company already profited a lot, okay, and then sue them later. Okay, sue or not to sue. So if they sue the company later when they have already gained a lot of profit, they can sue a big sum of money. But if they sue earlier, okay, they can maybe just get a small amount of money. So that is also another strategy. This is one thing that Monsanto did. What they did was they produced a Roundup seed, and then the seed is being sold to farmers, but then they attack farmers who are not purchasing the seed by detecting the genetic of their seed in another farmers. Okay, so let's say farmers A purchase the biotech seed, okay, the Monsanto seed, and then wind blows, and then some of the genetic landed on farmers B, which do not purchase the seed, and then Monsanto come to farmers B and then sue farmers B because they said that the farmers B is infringing on their seed because they are not purchasing Monsanto seed, but they have the genetic of Monsanto seed inside their plants. Okay, so I'm going to share 6 successful companies. Okay, the first one is 3 companies that is using different style to become successful. The first one is Millennium Pharmaceuticals. Okay, they have a lot of patent. Okay, but they are not actually generating money by selling their products. Okay, they actually got money by research grant as well as collaboration with other pharmaceutical and biotechnology companies. So they are just doing R&D to get patents, okay, and then the patent is either being sold, but then they are not actually commercializing or producing products from their own patents. Okay. Secondly is Genentech. Okay. So Genentech is very famous in producing insulin. Okay. So they produce product. Okay, just one product. Okay, but they just focus on this one product for commercialization. Okay, and then they obtain a lot of money by just doing this product because their market size is very big for this just one product. Okay, and then thirdly is Biogen, also only have one patent. Okay, and then they only generate profit by just this one product. Okay, but they are not selling the product alone. Okay, they just sell this product and then they also license this product to other companies, and then these other companies also selling the same product but under different brands. They looks like they are competing with each other. Okay, so the customer thinks, okay, there are a few products, okay, competitors, so they can select which one they want, but they didn't realize that actually it comes from the same manufacturer. You can go to Speedmart nowadays. I think this is also similar. I went there. I was looking at the rack and then I saw a lot of honey with different packaging. Okay, different size of bottle, different bottle types. Okay, different volume as well, different brand as well. But then I see what's the difference between these two. So I try to read the ingredients and the nutrition content. When I realized that the company names is the same. So just one company producing a lot of variant for honey product, so that people think that they can choose. Okay, I have a lot of choices. Then I choose this one lah. But then they realize actually they are purchasing the same honey, okay, and they are being misdirected to think that they actually have a choice. Okay? So this is a new slide I just add because I just want you to see the other three biotechnology companies. Okay, and then this is actually the top 5 biotechnology companies in the world with a very good ROI. So you can click the link at the bottom. Dah macam YouTube channel, click link at the bottom and subscribe to my channel. Dah. So the link at the bottom, you can see that there are 10 biotechnology companies who is very successful, and then their shares is increasing from time to time. The first one is Novo Nordisk. Okay, they are focusing on R&D, and then they manufacture and marketing their own products. Okay, but they focus on only two. Diabetes and obesity is one component, and then biopharmaceutical. But biopharmaceutical is quite diluted. Their focus is on diabetes. They are also producing drugs that can reduce the diseases that can lead to risk of diabetes. Then Regeneron Pharmaceuticals, which is also in healthcare. Okay? They are focusing on discovery, development, and then manufacturing and commercialization. Okay? But they didn't do the clinical trial. Okay? They subcontract, sorry, they contract other company to do the clinical trial for them because they said that they are more apa dipanggil specialized. They are more specialized in discovery and then the development, which is in vitro and in vivo. But then during the clinical trial, they will pass it to other company, pay them because they are not very good at that, or maybe they have already calculated that if they do the clinical trial on their own, they would cost a lot. So they ask a specialized company to do this clinical trial on them for them. Okay, and then you will be surprised that for a company that is doing clinical trials can also do businesses because they can mask the original brands of the drugs. Okay, and then they have more networking to do this clinical trial. Okay, and then they can do this at a much lower cost. So for Regeneron, they are focusing on human antibodies as well as biospecific antibodies. Okay, that is their main business. But at the same time, they also conduct gene sequencing operation. So you can send because they have this sequencer. Okay, because they are focusing on the discovery, right? So they have sequencer. So while they are not doing the discovery study, they provide services for other company to do gene sequencing at their company. So they have these two portfolio. And then finally is Biomarine Pharmaceuticals Incorporated. Okay, this is also specialized in healthcare. Okay, but they are focusing on the commercialization of therapies for life-threatening rare diseases only. Okay, this is extremely focused. Okay, rare disease, which is like SLE, and sometimes it hits some people, but when it hit, it will cause you life most of the time, because it is very dangerous. Okay, but they are specialized in this. So when people talk about this life-threatening rare diseases in the United States, okay, they will go to biomarine. Okay, and then most of the time they have very good very good rate of success. So with just one business model, okay, biomarine pharmaceutical is being listed as the fifth world top biotechnology companies. Okay, so you can read the rest by clicking the link. Okay, and if you want to invest as well, you can do that. So for these six companies, the reason for their success, first of all, they must be able to obtain and maintain the necessary patents and licenses. Of course, for all of these companies, they have their own lawyers. Okay, and you will see that lawyers is playing very important role in making sure that the company can be successful. If you watch the English drama, bukan English, American drama, the name is Suits. It have 9 seasons. It's very. I realize that the profession of lawyer is very, of course, dangerous, but at the same time they are very important. Okay, that is why they have even biotechnologists, or when I say biotechnologists, including all microbiologists, biology cells, biochemistry, and so on. They have these experts in their firms to make sure that they can actually search for this pattern, how they are being infringed, how they, for example, sometimes people are suing them for infringing other patents when their patents also still protected by patents. So they're going to find ways to make sure that how they can escape from this problem and so on. So legal field is very crucial as well. And then they must also demonstrate safety and efficacy of drug candidates at each stage of the clinical trial process. Okay, yang ni, you will see that the Pfizer's vaccine have about 95% efficacy, and then the report is being published and so on. So to be able to demonstrate the safety and efficacy, this is very important, and also to make sure that they can become people, because their success is not only based on their ability to protect their IP, but when people purchase their product in the large scale, okay, they can become more profitable, and then that is also a sign of success. Okay, and then they must also be able to meet applicable standards as well as approval from FDA. Okay, so this is also same with the COVID vaccine. Okay, they must acquire approval from FDA. In Malaysia, we have NCRA, NRCA, sorry, NCRA, to approve these drugs before it enters Malaysia. But you must also be careful, because some drugs in Malaysia, especially the one that you can purchase online, they are not approved by NHRA, because they are being imported illegally. Okay, so sometimes you can find the drugs being purchased from China, Singapore, and so on. So if anything happen to you when you are using this drug, NHRA and also FDA is not going to be responsible in Malaysia, because you bring in the drugs by yourself. And worse still is you could be sued because you illegally bringing in drugs that is not permitted in Malaysia. And then they must also capable of producing drugs at the quantity and reasonable cost. Okay, this is another thing, because when you're producing anything at a small quantity, of course the cost is higher, but when you can produce it in massive scale, the cost is lower. But to produce things in the massive size or the massive volume, you must also have the market. Yeah? If you're producing in big scale but then nobody is going to purchase it, there's also an issue. Yeah, you cannot sell it and then you will lose more. Okay. and then they must be able to compete successfully against other product. Competing have a lot of meaning. First, they could be either competing by producing a better product, okay, but you can see that in the vaccine competition, okay, they are fighting through time. Okay, so who is going to penetrate the market, the global market first? Because the first one to enter the global market, okay, they are going to profit most, and then they could become the most successful vaccine seller. Okay, and then finally they must market their product successfully. Okay, this is that's the all of this slide. Okay, Prof Ali, ada nak tambah apa tak?
Ada, can you go back one or two slides? Okay. Back sikit. Okay, this one. Thank you. Do you have time? Because kita nak buat quiz tu kan?
Yes, we have time, 17 minutes, Prof.
Okay. I won't use that much, insyaAllah. Okay, I just want to share because this is how startups get started kan. Dari segi proses tu, the Mamin has already mentioned earlier. Another one that he didn't mention I want to touch is you can actually form a company that do the matching. Because at the moment, for example, UPM has what? More than 1,000 IPs, I think, mainly patents. And the industry out there, the industries do not know what patents UPM has, right? So if you have the information, you can go out. Of course, you need the context. You go out and look for companies that are interested to use UPM's patents. So if you are an individual, maybe it's difficult for you to make the business, but you can team up. And especially when you team up, you have people not only from biotech related background, but from economic background, for example. And if it is related to health, maybe from health background, or if it is related to agriculture, from agriculture background. Okay, so you have a team. I know of a few Japanese companies who do this. They call themselves as a think tank or a matching company. So they go to the universities or the research institutes and see what they have, and then they go out to meet the companies and try to promote. Okay, so and then they arrange meetings. I mean, nowadays you can do, of course, online meetings, but once you have the match, for example, if a company takes up the technology, willing to take up or license the technology from the university, you get 10% or whatever percentage lah of the value. Itu you kena decide lah. Or you may get to 10% of the share of the company. That one is for you to decide because of your effort. And even then, this company started like that. Then I'm trying to offer some opportunities for you to consider, because now the job market is not so good. So maybe you can do this, and maybe you can even make more money rather than working for someone else. Wallahu alam. And then there's not much risk because you are not investing anything. It's just your time, right? You do not set up any factory or anything. So it's just your time and your expertise lah, and your charm. how you approach people, how you talk to people, how people are convinced with you. In there. So if you are good in if you like to meet people and good in talking to people and convincing people, nowadays they say social influencers kan in the submet. So I think you can do this business. It's too late for me or Dr. Mahamin, but for you, maybe you can do it. So even these companies, they do even extra. They even do. Tadi Dr. Mahamin mentioned about IP kan. No, IP. Sometimes the factories, the companies develop the basic IP, but as they go along, they improve on the IP. Handphones is very good on this. Phones. So they improve the IP and they have further patents, or sometimes they call utility patent and so on, to strengthen the original IP. So, and of course they need money to do that, right? So if the companies do not have enough money, this think tank group even go to the government or to MOSTI and look for the fund. And then they match between the government grants and also the companies or the universities, doesn't matter. which entity, but their role is to do the matching. Macam kalau dalam konteks jodoh ni kita jadi orang tengah lah kan, memperkenalkan anak dara dengan anak teruna. Tapi itu tak ada percentage lah, itu percentage kat akhirat lah. But in business, you can get a percentage. So if you can get, for example, the company or the university to get a grant from MOSTI, then you can get whatever lah, the fee kan, ataupun the commission lah, inverted commerce kan. Tapi it is legal lah, it is legal. Dia bukan macam you minta rasuah ke apa, tak ada. Ini you make a proper documentation. If you and this model has been done in I know in Japan and in Korea lah. Personally, there are companies doing that. And we have actually engaged with such companies before, but they are being paid by the Japanese and the Koreans lah. So but we involved in the projects. So these are some of the, because it is in your area tau. It is in your area. So it's biotech related, and you are also from UPM. Of course, UPM is not the only university has patents, tapi in biotech related patents, I suppose UPM is the highest code. We have the highest number of patents anyway in Malaysia. And then many of them are still lying idle there. Dalam list yang Dr. Fahmi share tu mungkin related to biotech saja. Kita ada banyak lagi patents lain. So this is one area which I think it is a blue ocean because tak ada orang buat. As far as I know, kat Malaysia tak ada lagi such company. So you are not competing with anybody. It's blue ocean. So you go out there, and if you can make a mark on this, you can make a lot of money lah. Cuma you need to also engage the professionals, the professors, because if you go to the industry, who are you kan? Who are you? So macam I pun, mula-mula saya jumpa Felda, mula-mula dia orang tak nak jumpa pun, although I have technology. And in the end, I bawa my Japanese professor, Professor Shirai, also supervisor for me and also supervisor for Dr. Mohamed. I brought him, and then I kata nak bawa Japanese professor. Baru dia nak jumpa kita. So you all pun sama. Kalau nak jumpa industri, bawa lah ada professors yang ada IP tu, bawa dia orang. Kan? Dia orang pun happy je sebab dia orang pun nak promote, tapi dia tak kenal the companies kan. You jadi orang tengah, you jadi the matchmaker that brings these two partners together. So lastly, niat ikhlas. Niat ikhlas. Kalau tak jadi tak apalah, you try, you dapat pahala. Kalau jadi, of course you dapat pahala, and you dapat dia punya commission lah kan. Tapi niat tu kena betul daripada awal. So if you have a good niat, insyaAllah chances of success Allah akan pertingkatkan. InsyaAllah. Thank you. Itu tambahan je.
Thank you very much, Rob. Okay, any question from the students?
No.
Tak ada yang excited ke? Ingat ada soalan tadi.
Maybe while we are at this, okay, kita boleh encourage student, okay, lepas ni korang nak buat SIP kan? Maybe you can find a supervisor and then try to take a look if your supervisor have IPs yang dia nak commercialkan, dan dia dah ada IP tu dalam UPM lah, and then try to convince him or her, okay, to bring the IP to Putra Science Park, okay, and then you could be one of the apa dia panggil project manager mula
Yeah.
And then you become the project manager first. Of course you can be paid, you have salary. Okay, the module will take about 2 years. So these 2 years you can have your salary lah. Okay, lepas tu you should be able to graduate from PSP, from InnoHub. And then maybe at that time your supervisor can make you become the CEO of the company, okay, and then you can lead the company. So that is a very good way of commercializing, win-win lah kan. You pun dapat kerja, dan UPM pun dapat commercialkan dia punya IP, your supervisor pun boleh dapat commission from the licensing of the IP.
And normally we offer shares in the company.
Sebab sometimes students tak tahu benda ada. Saya rasa bukan student je, ada setengah lecturer pun tak tahu.
So Dr. Min, I sedang, we invite the PSP punya tu speaker.
Itulah, saya tak dapat nak contact dia. Saya
Then in that case your sister lah.
Saya dapat permission untuk guna slide kakak saya, tapi saya tak dapat masa dia juga.
Oh,
So,
masya-Allah.
we are going to share her
We
slide.
can combine the two classes actually.
Betul, boleh juga. Kan?
Hmm.
Nanti saya cubalah. Saya cuba dulu ya, Prof.
Okay. Baca
Okay.
bismillah.
Sadaqallahu azim. Okay, if you first we will go through the quiz. Okay, lepas tu saya akan bagi kamu masa untuk pilih tajuk untuk kamu punya assessment. So for the quiz,